Hi, this is Dr. Monte. Do you find yourself in some of life's storms? Storms can overwhelm us at any time, many times throughout our lives. Stay tuned and we'll talk a lot about how we can start fighting in these storms, how we can find peace in these storms. Stay tuned. Hi, this is Dr. Monte with Finding Peace in the Storm Ministry. This video is on the first step of finding peace in the storm, one of my first videos. So welcome, and let's talk about this. Storms can overwhelm all of us at different times in our lives. All of us go through it. We may lose a job. We may lose a loved one, either breaking up or divorce or death. Deaths are terrible storms that we have to overwhelm. It's always a natural part of life. Maybe sometimes people hurt you, leaving you just feeling abandoned or rejected, worthless. Just you feel like you're unlovable. Maybe you're going through financial hardships. There's lots of storms that can hit us. They're just out of our control. Sometimes our storms are self-caused, but they're still storms nonetheless. So what are we going to do about them? Are you helpless? It's natural and normal to be depressed, to be anxious in the middle of a storm. And it really is. Who wouldn't be in some of those times? Just like a real thunderstorm, though, can come upon us and surprise us and overwhelm us. It can leave us feeling helpless and sometimes quite hopeless, can it? But does that mean we are doomed to live in misery because of the storm? We're just powerless to do anything but be miserable? The point of this video is to realize that we have some choices. We have some things we can do about it. We don't have much control over the storm. We can't. But can you learn to control some of the things about your life to help you deal with it better? We can learn to control our emotions. You don't have to let the depression and anxiety control you. They can seem overwhelming at times, like we have no choice. But for most of us, we can learn to control those emotions if we take a deep look at ourselves. We don't want to feel just helpless to those things. We do have some control, not over the storm, but of how we react to the storm and what we do to it. You always have a choice. Even if you're choosing to wallow in self-pity or to just lay there helpless, you're still making a choice. You could choose to do something about it. And that's the number one thing about this video is, can you look at yourself and look at your life and see what are the ways could I look at this to maybe look at things differently? So yes, we often get depressed and anxious in these storms. It's normal. I kind of tell my patients, okay, it's normal to be depressed. I want them to feel like they're not crazy for what they're going through. Anybody's going to feel like that when life overwhelms us. But that doesn't mean we have to stay that way. We do have some control over it, and we can learn. Now, depression and anxiety, I'll give you, can be for some people very physiological. You're born with it, or maybe some storms early in your life just taught you that that's how you deal with life, is through depression or anxiety. I understand that, and it's going to be a lot easier for some people and a lot harder for other people. That's just normal. Some people do need medications because it is a physiological disease. But other people, pills can just mask what's going on. They can hide the true source of your perspective that needs to be changed. And if you just hide behind the pills and you don't change your perspective, you're dooming yourself to long-term misery and not really finding true peace. So even if you do have medical problems and you need pills, you need medications, you've got to change your perspective of how you look at things, and you can make things more bearable. Hopefully make things happy in the storms, but in some storms you can't make yourself happy. It's just unrealistic. But can you make them more bearable? Can you find contentment? Yeah, we can. Now, there's some choices we can make that will make things worse. We can look to feel sorry for ourselves. Now, don't get me wrong. I'm all in favor of feeling sorry for ourselves sometimes. You know, usually it's a weird thing to say, oh, my psychologist told me to feel sorry for myself. Yeah, sometimes I do with my patients. When things have been really hard and bad on them, I would, if I were in their shoes. It's okay to, if you do it purposefully, with intent. I am going to let myself be a big old baby and have a pity party and cry, because it's hard and you need time to feel sad like that. But you know you're going to do it just for a little while, not ongoing. And when the time comes and you cried your last tears, like, okay, take a deep breath, and you think different things that we're going to work on in here. And you say, okay, you put your big boy panties on or your big girl panties on, and you get up and you fight to make the best out of it. You can learn to do that. So make the good choice of feeling sorry for yourself, not the bad way. Changing the way that we look at ourselves can be hard, really hard. It requires taking a deep look inside yourself and sitting thinking things, okay, well, maybe I was like this, or maybe it's possible I am doing that. That's not me. I'm not like that kind of person. Maybe you are. Can you look at things differently? There's lots of different ways, but can you first take that first important step of just considering, I can change. I can't change the storms, but I can change me, and I can allow myself to be happier than I am right now. It can happen, and I want to try. That first step alone is critical, and so many times people don't even try to make it. They just live for weeks and months and years feeling sad and helpless in the storm until finally the feelings die off or the storm goes away, but they could have been the whole time much more content. At the time of this recording, I have my first draft written of the book, Finding Peace in Life's Storms. That's just chock full of many different ways to look at yourself, to look at your life, to motivate you to take a second look and try to step back and change and make the best out of it. I have lots of examples of stories from my life, well, not just my life, but the patients that I deal with, people who have gone through terrible storms. You know, sometimes I think, oh, I'm depressed because I'm dealing with this storm, and I go to work and it's like, oh my God, my storm is nothing compared to their storm. And yet, look, they found peace. Of course, that's my job to try to get them to that point. And sometimes I help get them there, and sometimes they're already there before I even meet them. But I talk to some of these people and they've learned to find peace. And so it's just so inspiring. And so I have a lot of this in a book. In the near future, hopefully you'll be able to find a link below to be able to go to my website and get that book. But for now, know that it's coming. I hope so soon. Okay, yes, I have lots of ideas in my book, but I still want to give you something here just to get you going. The first thing, like I said, is realize you have a choice. You're not completely helpless in the storm. You can look at yourself and change. But the very first technique, though, that I go much more detail in the book, but it's so important to understand, is the word acceptance. Acceptance doesn't mean like, doesn't mean condone, it doesn't mean you're okay. If someone committed some terrible act against you, you still have a right to be upset with them. And what they did does not mean it's right or okay, but you can forgive them, but you can accept that it is what it is. And being mad at them, being upset, being depressed is not going to change the situation it is. It just means I know that I can't change it, so what can I do now to make the best out of it? That's all acceptance means. And it's a critical thing that I've learned with all my patients I deal with of how sometimes people find peace and sometimes people don't. It's the number one solution as a way to look at it like that. You've heard the serenity prayer. God grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, the courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. I used to hate that. I thought it was an overused cliche, and the Alcoholics Anonymous used it all the time in one of their little rituals. Nothing against AA, that's good for some people. But it didn't have meaning to me until I started doing my job and I started coming across people, and I started realizing that was kind of the key, the key to wisdom of being able to cope with things, is accepting what you can't change. I love the analogy of beating a dead horse. It's just, that's all the expression is, but it implies that, okay, if you want that horse to run and you're sitting on it, you can beat it, you can kick it, you can jiggle your reins, you can pet it, caress it, put a carrot in front of a stick in front of it. It's not going to run. It's dead. And it sounds stupid to even try to make it run. But yet that's what we do in our lives so much. We just hide away in depression. We think that if we're just depressed enough, we'll get our way, that they'll see how depressed we are and the storm will go away and change. Logically, we know that that's wrong and it's not going to work, but yet our heart and our emotions are quite stubborn and can hold on anyway. And you got to give that up. It's not going to change. One of the key examples I like in this is the story of a little girl, 4-year-old girl who wants a cookie. And it's like, Mom, can I have a cookie? No, sweet, it's too close to dinner time. You just have to wait. And the kid throws a temper tantrum. Well, you don't have to be a big brat to throw a tantrum. You know, kids are always going to go through that stage. But they do that. They don't get their way and they throw a fit. Now, let's say this little girl has a playtime. You know, it's an hour before dinner. That's her playtime. But she spends it crying and screaming, hoping she can get Mom to change her mind. Of course, Mom's not going to. It's a decent mom. And so dinner time comes, the girl calms down, she eats, she gets a little happier, then it's bath time, and then it's story time, and then it's bedtime. And so it's like, but I didn't get to play with my toys like I wanted. Sweetie, you had that chance. You spent the hour crying and throwing a fit instead of playing. That's like us. We never fully really grow out of that. We don't get our way and we pout and scream and we make it worse than it already is. Now take another little girl. She has a lot better perspective on things and she doesn't get her way, but she says, well, mom's not going to give me what I want, so I guess I'll just play with my toys instead. And she has a much better time. She still wanted that cookie and she's still sad that she didn't get the cookie, but she still has an hour playtime. And so she's much more content and happy. Both girls, neither one got the cookie that they wanted, but one girl had a lot better time. We're so much like that, aren't we? We cry and we throw a fit and we're upset because we don't get our way and we end up making our lives much more miserable. But you do have a choice. The little girl had a choice. You could choose to be angry and try to get her way, or accept that the storm's not going to change, the mom's not going to change, and try to make the best out of it. It's a simple little example, but I swear it's the same thing that we go through in our own lives. I've had to battle myself sometimes with depression, and there's times when I've had to admit, it's like, you know what, this is stupid. I could be depressed, but it's not going to make a difference. It's manipulative sometimes, trying to be that way. But so be like the girl who accepts that she's not going to get her way. Acceptance. Accept that you can't change the storm. You just got to change how you deal with the storm. Okay, so that's one example of how you look at yourself. You sit there and take a look. It's like, okay, am I trying to get what I want and not doing a very good job of it? And do I need to accept that it's not going to change the storm? That's a way of looking at yourself. There's many other ways I can give you to look at yourself. I hope to give those in a lot more upcoming videos, and certainly in my book. Hopefully when it's done, you'll see a link below to be able to buy that. But until then, watch the videos. There are going to be a lot of different ways I'll be addressing depression and anxiety and trying to help you guys find that peace in the storm. So if you can, do me a favor in the comment section below. Can you tell me if you think a book like this and looking at this would be helpful to you and maybe to someone else around you? I'd love if I have any feedback I could. Maybe I could in the future give a little sample of my book, see if people give me some feedback on it or something. I don't know. But anyway, I'd love to hear from you about this topic and what you think of the video. As always, please subscribe to my channel to get future videos. I plan on releasing a new video every Thursday, and hopefully more than that in the future as I get going. But I just really need your support. If you like the video, like it and share it with somebody else. Especially, we all know someone who's depressed and down and going through some storms. So if you find this is helpful at all, and they need a kick in the butt to stop feeling sorry for themselves, maybe, to give them this, pass this video along. Thanks so much. I need your support, and I just really appreciate your support. As always, I'm praying that you can find peace in your storm. God bless.